Hello YouTube, this is Mike. Welcome back to the channel. This is the 4 things that heal BPD and NPD abuse. If you're somebody that has been in a romantic relationship or you're currently in a romantic relationship with somebody who suffers from untreated, undiagnosed and or toxic borderline personality disorder and or narcissistic personality disorder, then I'm here to share with you the 4 things that I did that completely 100% healed me of the trauma of that relationship. If you wait till the end of the video, I'll tell you exactly what those 4 things are, and you can either do them or not do them. It's completely up to you. So the question today somebody asked, which is a really good one. They say, Mike, there are times a person feels like they are talking to the quote real person unquote who has BPD, not the illness. Do you think a person is ever communicating to the real unaffected person or always interfacing with the illness? I know it's only a matter of time before the BPD behavior surfaces. Thanks. Let me just give you the short answer to that question. The short answer to that question is yes. Whenever you are interfacing with a person with BPD who is undiagnosed, untreated, and or still toxic, even if they have been treated, you are dealing with the illness 100% of the time. It's important to understand that borderline personality disorder is a disorder. Basically, there are 2 people in one body. It's about as close as you can get to having a dissociative identity disorder. It's about as close as you can get. And both of those people are functioning under the control of the disorder. So what causes, the very thing that attracts us to them is their seeming vulnerability, their seeming empathy, their seeming love. By the way, they do feel those things. So borderlines, I know you do have an experience of those feelings. But as psychologists would say, those are actually superficial. I'll explain what I mean about that later. But it doesn't. When I say superficial, it doesn't mean you don't feel them to the depths of your bones. You do, but it is still superficial. I'll explain that. So your experience is there's this real person who you fell in love with, who you thought was the entire person, who you thought loved you unconditionally, who was incredibly kind, loving, attentive, affectionate, very oftentimes extremely sexually affectionate. And so they create strong bonds within you. If you're attracted to them, it's because at the very least you have experienced some kind of a loss and you are yearning for a deep connection, and they provide that. And then as a result, you believe that you know this person and you fall in love with that person. And that creates a strong bond within you, which creates real intimacy. You get past the original superficial intimacy, which happens in the honeymoon stage, which can last maybe a couple days to years. The honeymoon stage can be different lengths of time, but the honeymoon stage is, quote, superficial because you haven't really gotten to know the person yet. And so however long it takes to get past that superficial stage of the honeymoon, and I'm not judging it, the honeymoon is great. And there's no reason not to believe when you're with a, quote, normal person, that the honeymoon isn't going to give you an idea of where things are going to go, because people tend to, we're designed to have a honeymoon. The honeymoon experience, the superficial experience of projection onto each other and the oxytocin and all of that, that is meant to create a bond. Then as that begins to wear off, there's a bond of intimacy that is created that then you build on that bond of intimacy. It's the cognitive dissonance or the toxic confusion that is created in the relationship is that you think, and there's no reason for you not to think it, you think you know the person and that person loves you and that person isn't going to change. Yeah, they're going to have good days and bad days. Yeah, they're going to be nicer some days. Yeah, they're going to be days when they're a pain in the ass. But you still generally have the same person you're dealing with, and you can still always communicate with that person. Even if you have a fight, you can come back the next day. They remember who you are, you remember who they are, and you can work things out. There's no reason for you not to believe that that is something you can expect. So when you're in the idealization phase with the borderline, you are operating from those assumptions that are wired within you. That's what you're supposed to think. What causes the cognitive dissonance is when they split so radically and so completely and so irrationally, out of nowhere, for no reason. And seemingly this other person shows up who hates you and who accuses you of things you didn't do and lies about you and doesn't remember who you are. This is incredibly hurtful, extremely traumatic, extremely toxic, and this creates a trauma bond. Because then what ends up happening is that you lose, the top parts of your brain, and you're just operating from survival, which is the childish need to be loved, and you need mommy's love or daddy's love, and you can't think past that, and so your whole energy goes towards getting that love back. And then it does come back, and then you create a bond again, and so you create a trauma bond. That repetition compulsion. It's another one of those words that I don't like, because people, once you start throwing it around, it superficializes the scenario, but it's still accurate. So to get to your question, do I think that you are ever communicating with the person? First off, get rid of this idea that there is the real person and the illness. That is your fantasy. That is your understandable fantasy. You want there to be a real person that you can give birth to. You want to reach in there, find that real person. And when you have them, you want to hold on to them and go, it's safe, come with me, let's escape. By the way, that's what they want as well. The borderline wants that. They want you to be the one person who can reach them and pull them away from the introjected abuser within. And they believe that you can do it. That's why they see you as the knight in shining armor. That's why you're the best person, because you're the one that's going to save them. And they believe that the love that they have will last forever, and I've finally figured it out, and this is the one. And they will tell you words to that effect, but it never lasts. So that creates the delusion that you can grab onto that real person, and if you can just hold on to them, you'll both survive, and then the psychopath will starve and die, and then you'll just be left with this person who loves you like a kitten and idealizes you for the rest of your life, and you're going to be in bliss. And of course that doesn't happen. So you have to understand that borderline personality disorder is a disorder of projection. So that means, as you know, when they're splitting on you and they're devaluing you, you understand that that is a projection. And basically everything that they say about you is exactly them. In fact, I can remember one time going, listening to, as my borderline was hurling all of these projections onto me. And I remember saying out loud, oh my God, the projection is astonishing. Because it was literally, it wasn't even hidden. It was just it was just anybody standing there would have been going, oh my God, she is just completely projecting everything onto you. This is exactly how she feels about herself. So you think that that's the only time that projection is happening, when they are attacking you or ghosting you or devaluing you or discarding you. But that is your understandable delusion. When they're love bombing you, guess what? They are also projecting onto you. They're projecting onto you what they want for themselves. This isn't conscious. They feel, so borderline's listening, you want to know why it's superficial? The feeling that they have when they project on you is incredibly deep. In fact, they feel it in their bones, all of the love that they feel, all the giving, all of that is very real. But it's an unconscious projection. That what they're doing is they are giving you the absolute flood of unconditional motherly love that they never got, which is what they're still waiting for. They're still waiting for that. And so this is projection. They project it onto you and or transfer it onto you. What does that mean? It means it has nothing to do with you. So you know already that when they attack you, when they abuse you, when they discard you, it has nothing to do with you. Now you understand that now. Oh, I didn't really say that. This is their issue. Oh my God, that's horrible. I feel so bad for them. Or that's so horrible, they're accusing me of something I never did. I can't believe how hurt and offended I am. This has nothing to do with me when they're being mean to you. But guess what? When they're love bombing you, it also has nothing to do with you. Completely, you are an object. You're an object when they are attacking you and devaluing you. You know that. You're being objectified. You're being instrumentalized. You are being instrumentalized when they're love bombing you. It's just as abusive. It just happens to feel good. And again, it's not that they don't honestly feel it, because this is projection. When they're full of rageful projection, they also feel that, even though it's a completely unreal feeling, in that the feeling itself didn't come from anything that happened in objective reality. It came completely from inside of their own head. The love also comes completely from inside their own head. It's left over. It's a infantile experience that never got to be realized, and they are realizing it with you. But what it really means is that that's what they want from you. They want you to love them unconditionally, and they want you to treat them like a mother. They want you to be the perfect mother. And so they fantasize that you are, because they need you to be. When they say you're the perfect person, my borderline said, you're the best because you do all the things. And I wasn't the best. I was just a normal person. I was a great partner, I think, but there wasn't anything, unusual about me. There's plenty of other really great people out there that can love as I loved her. But what she needed me to be is she needed me to be this unrealistic, perfect person. And really the only person in the universe that can be that is an individuated mother. Nobody loves like a mother loves an infant. Nobody. And so that's why, number one, you're screwed. The moment that you are being idealized, it's over. Because they're projecting onto you a perfection and heaping onto you love you haven't earned. You didn't earn that. I can remember going back after being, during the idealization phase and going, oh my God, I have found the most amazing, loving person, and the things that she was doing for me. The cooking and the foot massages and all of that, and seemingly not wanting anything in return. But looking back on it now, I was, the moment that happened, it was over. I was screwed. And that feeling of this is too good to be true. And there was a feeling of like I'm eating cotton candy. This is really sweet tasting, but it melts in your mouth and it's rotting my teeth, and there's no nutrition here. And so that's why it's superficial. So superficial means not that they didn't feel it deeply. It means that it didn't have any lasting value. Again, cotton candy is a good example. You put it in your mouth, and what does it do? It immediately dissolves. Their intense love that they have for you dissolves, just like cotton candy in your mouth. So to answer your question, the short answer is no, you're never talking with the real person. Even when they're sitting down, looking you in the face, and they're completely there with you, and you can see them, you can see in their eyes, they're totally there. They feel for you, they love you, they are taking in everything that you're saying, and they're very reasonably saying, you know, you're right, the reason I did that is because from my childhood and I was afraid, and you don't deserve that, you've always been good to me, and I promise you I will never do that again, because I see now why I did what I did, and I see you for who you are. And then they'll pull out even more things out of you, you know, and you know, this is, you know, sometimes when mine would do that, she would manipulate me in ways like she, you know, when things didn't go well, like in the beginning when I tried to leave her a couple of times, and she got me, somehow gaslit me into thinking that I was doing it out of my fear of commitment, and then she got me to cry, you know, thinking about my mom and how my mom did this and that. She says, you see, I've always been here this whole time. You were the one. So it's not to say that they don't manipulate you in the love bombing and that they don't do all kinds of other things as well. That stuff does happen. But no, the short answer is no. The real person you think you're communicating with is also being driven by the disorder. And there is never a time when they're not being driven by the disorder in a romantic relationship. I can't talk about the rest of their life. We could have a discussion about that because there's all different kinds of borderlines. My borderline was incapable of functioning on her own. She couldn't hold down a job. But there are borderlines that are perfectly capable, that have very good careers. At least seemingly for a time, they're able to show up and, you know, and be professional. But in a romantic relationship, guaranteed, the romantic relationship 100% of the time, if they are untreated, like they haven't been in treatment, serious treatment for 10 years, if they're untreated or partially treated, then it is guaranteed that you are dealing with the disorder. And there you go. So I said I was going to tell you the 4 things. So if you've been in one of these relationships, you have been severely damaged. That damage you have to treat like an infection that will not go away. And if the longer that you stay out of the relationship thinking that time will heal all, it doesn't. Those of you who say, I'm in a whole lot of pain, I just hope that in time this pain will go away, guess what? It won't. It may scab over, but it never goes away. The infection is always there. It morphs around and gets deeper. And anyway, short answer is this pain will not go away if you've been infected by one of these relationships. So you have to, just like with a bacterial infection, if you take the antibiotics, you can be completely cured of the infection. So here's how you do it. There are 4 things. The 4 things are: number 1, going no contact; number 2, working the 12 steps of Codependence Anonymous or whatever 12-step group you want; number 3, working with a psychologist when you can afford it; and number 4, doing daily meditation. In my experience and in my observation, every single non-disordered codependent who does those 4 things with everything that they have eventually completely heals from the relationship. The rest of your life, you know, you're still going to have issues, but you won't have to ever think about that person again. You won't have to forget them either. You won't be angry, you won't be sad, you won't be longing for them, you won't have trauma associated with it, you won't be waking up in the middle of the night thinking about where are they, what are they thinking. You won't be, all of the things, positive and negative, that all of those feelings will get resolved. You will learn how to not just intellectually understand, but you'll feel that, oh my God, that relationship really wasn't what I thought it was. Wow, what a relief. And then you'll realize what it really was about, and you'll be able to work on that. So the first one is going no contact. That means that you make it impossible for your borderline to contact you. Throw your phone in the river, sell your house, move, change your name, get a restraining order. I don't care. There's no reason to have them in your life. Oh, you were married? Get a divorce, have the lawyer be the go-between. Oh, you have kids? Great. Take her to court, have the lawyer be the one that always interacts, makes the appointments, where to pick up the kids, where to drop them off. You have no contact with them. Don't tell me you can't do it. You can. I didn't say it would be easy. But you have to go completely no contact, make it impossible for them to ever contact you. Number 2, working all 12 steps. So the general one is Codependence Anonymous, CODA.org. And working the 12 steps does not mean going to a meeting or going to an online Zoom meeting only. Don't say, I went to one of those meetings and they don't really jive with me, or I don't really jive with the spirituality of it. Don't waste my time with that. Going to CODA means that you get a sponsor and you work the steps with a sponsor. You have questions about the God thing or the whatever, great. Ask your sponsor about it. And you get to step 4 as soon as you reasonably can, and you work step 4 with everything you have of the 12 steps. So the second thing is working all 12 steps with a sponsor. And don't tell me you can't find a meeting. You can get a Zoom meeting anywhere in the world. You can find it online, and it's completely free. So there's zero excuse not to work the 12 steps. By the way, anybody who tells you that the 12 steps don't work on codependence, that is somebody who, at the very least, has not done them. If you have not done them, you are not qualified to talk about them. Period. End of story. So never take advice from somebody who hasn't done something, because they can't talk about it. I can't talk about what it's like to fly a plane. I can't give you advice on how to fly a plane because I've never done it. So never listen to anybody who has never worked the 12 steps because they can't talk about an experience they've never had. The third one, of the 4 things, the first 2 are non-negotiable. If you don't do them, I guarantee you the pain will come back. I guarantee you. If you do number 1 and number 2 completely and thoroughly, I guarantee you a complete healing at some point. I can't tell you when, but I guarantee you a complete healing. If you don't do 1 and 2 completely, then I guarantee you the pain will come back. Some people go, I've done number 1 and number 3. That doesn't count. I've done number 3 and number 4. That doesn't count. You have to do 1 and 2. 1 and 2 are non-negotiable. Number 3 is not immediately necessary. Getting therapy. Therapy is great for looking into your unconscious, and it helps you. And the combination of a good therapist, there's a lot of bad ones out there, a good therapist and working the 12 steps is actually bulletproof in my experience. But you don't have to get a therapist right away. If you can't afford one, you can wait until you can, but you don't need anything to work the 12 steps. It costs you nothing. And number 4, which is daily meditation, that's really just step 11 of the 12 steps. So really the only things of the 4 things that you absolutely have to do are thing 1 and thing 2. Thing 3 and thing 4, that's completely up to you. And if you are not doing the 4 things, guess what? I'm going to know. Perhaps you're doing them, but you're just starting out or you're in the process, and I may not be able to tell if you're doing them or not. But I can tell when somebody has not achieved the recovery that comes from doing the 4 things. And since this channel is about helping you do that, I'm going to point it out. I know that people come on this channel because they want to hear me talk about the borderline and what a borderline personality, blah, 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 blah. But that's really just gossip that makes you feel better. It takes a little bit of the pain off because you don't feel as crazy, but it doesn't get rid of the infection. It's like somebody explaining to you your bacterial infection, and you go, oh, that's why I feel so crappy. I'm not crazy. I have an illness. but then you don't take the antibiotics, so it doesn't go away. Same thing here. What I'm hoping to do is that you will listen to these videos long enough to realize that there is nothing that you can do to get the relationship to work. The relationship will never work, and that you will stop trying to make it work. If you become aware that you can't leave the relationship, then you will be aware of two things. The relationship won't work and you're powerless and you need help. Then you're going to go do thing one and thing two. And then you'll struggle with that, and then at some point you won't need this channel anymore. You won't have any of these questions, and you won't need to hear me repeat myself and rehash things over and over again. All of your questions will go away, and eventually you will think about that borderline relationship. Oh yeah, I remember that. I dated some girl. She was really toxic. It was really damaging to me, but you know, I did these 4 things and I healed from it, and I have nothing but compassion for her. What is her name again? And that happens with me all the time. I forget my ex's name. In fact, okay, I just remembered. I had to think about it. So if you want to have what I have, you got to do what I do. That's it for me, guys. I wish you all the best. Take care. I'll see you next time.